German Shepherd was found inside a sealed coffin underground. What baby did next left everyone in tears. The story you're about to listen will touch your heart in ways you never imagined. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Noah Carter hadn't spoken a single word in over a year. Not since that rainy Tuesday when his mother's car slid off the road, flipping 3 times before coming to rest upside down in a ditch. Noah watched it all from the back seat, his tiny 5-year-old body protected by his car seat, while his mother's life slipped away before his eyes. The doctor said there was nothing physically wrong with Noah's voice. The trauma had simply locked his words away somewhere deep inside him, somewhere no one could reach. "How's he doing today?" Dr. James Murphy asked, his weathered hands gripping a mug of steaming coffee as he watched his grandson through the kitchen window. Noah was wandering along the edge of the woods behind the farmhouse, kicking at fallen leaves and poking the ground with a stick he'd found. "Same as yesterday," replied Sarah Murphy, Dr. Murphy's daughter-in-law and Noah's aunt. He ate a little breakfast. Still no words. She wiped her hands on a dish towel, her eyes never leaving the small figure outside. "It's been 13 months, James. I'm starting to think he might never speak again." Dr. Murphy, who everyone in town still called Doc despite his retirement from veterinary practice from years ago, sighed deeply. Trauma like that, it affects everyone differently. All we can do is give him time and keep showing him love. Outside, Noah ventured deeper into the tree line, the autumn sun casting dappled shadows through the branches above. He liked being in the woods. It was quiet here, like him. No one asking him questions he couldn't answer. No one looking at him with sad eyes full of pity. Just the trees and the birds and the soft earth beneath his feet. A rustling sound caught Noah's attention. He froze, clutching his stick tighter. The sound came again, a faint whimpering, almost too quiet to hear. Noah tilted his head, listening intently. It was coming from further in the woods, past the big oak tree with the crooked branch. Noah followed the sound, his small sneakers crunching on fallen leaves. The whimpering grew louder, more desperate. He broke into a run, something inside him pulling him forward, urging him to hurry. The sound led him to a small clearing where the earth looked wrong, different, disturbed. The soil was freshly turned over, as if someone had been digging recently, and the whimpering was coming from beneath the ground. Without hesitation, Noah dropped to his knees and began to dig with his bare hands. The dirt worked its way under his fingernails as he clawed at the earth, driven by an urgency he didn't understand. He dug faster, deeper, his breathing quick and shallow. His fingers brushed against something solid, wood, a box buried in the earth. The whimpering was definitely coming from inside. Noah scraped away more dirt, revealing what looked like a wooden coffin with small holes drilled into the top. The holes were barely big enough to let air through, and the whimpering had grown weaker. Whatever was inside was running out of time. "Noah! Noah, where are you?" Doc Murphy's voice called from the distance. Noah didn't answer, couldn't answer, but he did something he hadn't done in over a year. He screamed. The sound that tore from his throat wasn't a word. It was raw, primal, a cry for help that echoed through the trees. Seconds later, he heard the sound of running footsteps crashing through the underbrush. "Noah, what in the world?" Doc Murphy broke off as he burst into the clearing, taking in the sight of his grandson covered in dirt, frantically digging at what appeared to be a buried box. "Good Lord," he whispered, dropping into his knees beside Noah. "Sarah," he bellowed over his shoulder, "bring my tools, quick." Doc's experienced hands quickly assessed the situation. "Something's alive in there," he muttered, using his pocket knife to pry at the edges of the wooden lid. "Who would do such a thing?" Sarah arrived moments later, breathless, carrying Doc's old veterinary tool bag. "What's happening? Is Noah hurt?" Her eyes widened as she saw the partially uncovered box. "Is that a—" "Help me get this open," Doc instructed, taking a small crowbar from the bag. "Careful now. We don't know what's inside or what condition it's in." Noah watched, trembling, as his grandfather worked the crowbar under the edge of the lid. With a splintering crack, the wood gave way. Doc Murphy slowly lifted the lid, and 3 pairs of eyes peered inside. A pair of amber eyes stared back at them, filled with fear and exhaustion. It was a German Shepherd, severely malnourished, its ribs visible beneath a dull coat. The dog's legs were bound with rope, and strange markings were shaved into its fur. Most disturbing were the surgical scars visible along its sides and head. "My God," Sarah whispered, her hand covering her mouth. The dog whimpered again, weaker this time. It was clinging to life by a thread, and something else caught Doc's trained eye. The dog's belly was distended in a way that could only mean one thing. "She's pregnant," he said grimly. "And close to term, I'd say." Noah pushed forward suddenly, his small body wedging between the adults. Before either could stop him, he reached into the box and placed his tiny hand on the dog's head. The dog's eyes locked with Noah's, and something passed between them. A connection so powerful that both Doc and Sarah felt it like a physical force. The dog stopped whimpering. Noah stopped trembling. For a moment, time seemed to stand still in the clearing. "We need to get her back to the house," Doc said, breaking the spell. "She needs fluids, nutrients, and a proper examination. Sarah, there's a blanket in my bag. Let's use it to carry her." As Doc carefully cut away the ropes binding the dog's legs, Noah refused to break contact, keeping his hand on her head. When they finally lifted her onto the blanket, Noah walked alongside, his small fingers tangled in her fur, as if he could somehow transfer his own strength into her failing body. Back at the farmhouse, Doc transformed the kitchen into an emergency veterinary clinic. Years of practice took over as he inserted an IV line to deliver fluids and administered emergency nutrients. Sarah called the local animal hospital, but the veterinarian on duty was handling an emergency surgery and couldn't come immediately. "We'll have to stabilize her ourselves," Doc said, his movements precise despite his age. "Sarah, boil some water and get my surgical kit from the basement. It's in the storage room, blue case on the top shelf." All the while, Noah never left the dog's side. He sat on a stool next to the kitchen table, where they'd placed her, his hand resting gently on her neck, his eyes never leaving her face. "She's responding well to the fluids," Doc noted, checking the dog's gums. "Color's coming back. But these surgical scars, I've never seen anything like this. It looks professional, but what kind of vet would do this and then leave an animal to die in a box underground?" As if understanding his words, the dog suddenly began to seize, her body convulsing violently on the table. Doc rushed to steady her, trying to prevent her from hurting herself or the unborn puppies. "Hold her head," he instructed Sarah. "Gently now. We can't restrain her too much." But before Sarah could move, Noah did something that stopped both adults in their tracks. He placed both hands on the dog's head and, for the first time since the accident, spoke. "Stay with me, Luna." His voice was raspy from disuse, but the words were clear. The effect on the dog was immediate and inexplicable. The seizure stopped. The German shepherd's breathing steadied. Her eyes, which had rolled back during the seizure, focused again and found Noah's face. Doc and Sarah stood frozen in shock, staring at Noah. "Did he just—" Sarah began. "Luna," Noah repeated, stroking the dog's head. "Her name is Luna." Doc Murphy felt tears spring to his eyes. "Yes," he managed to say through the lump in his throat. "It seems her name is Luna." For the rest of the evening, Noah spoke softly to Luna, whispering words that only she could hear. Doc continued his treatment, marveling at the dog's resilience and the medical mystery of her condition. The surgical scars seemed to focus around her head and spine, with what appeared to be small entry points where something might have been inserted beneath her skin. "I don't like the look of this," Doc muttered to Sarah while Noah was momentarily distracted getting water. "These aren't normal veterinary procedures. This looks more like experimentation." Sarah shuddered. "Who would experiment on a dog and then bury her alive? It's monstrous." "I don't know," Doc replied, "but I'm calling Sheriff Rodriguez first thing in the morning. This needs to be investigated." That night, they made Luna comfortable in the living room on a soft blanket near the fireplace. Noah refused to go to bed, insisting on sleeping next to her. After some discussion, Sarah relented, making a pallet for him on the floor beside the dog. "He spoke, Dad," Sarah whispered as she and Doc watched Noah curl up next to Luna, one small hand resting protectively on her side. "After all this time, he finally spoke." "I know," Doc replied softly. "Whatever connection he has with that dog, it reached a part of him nothing else could." Neither of them knew how right they were. In the middle of the night, Doc woke to a strange sound. He blinked in the darkness, trying to identify what had disturbed his sleep. It sounded like talking. He climbed out of bed, his old joints protesting, and made his way downstairs. The living room was dimly lit by the dying embers in the fireplace. Doc stopped in the doorway, unable to believe what he was seeing. Noah was sleepwalking, moving around the coffee table with a pencil in hand, drawing on sheets of paper Sarah had left there. But what shocked Doc wasn't the sleepwalking. It was what Noah was drawing. Complex diagrams covered the papers, intricate patterns that looked like neural pathways, connections between brain cells, electrical circuits that shouldn't be in the head of a 5-year-old boy. And as Noah drew, he was mumbling, his voice soft but clear. The bad people put things in Luna's head, metal things. They make her see differently. They make her feel pain. Noah's pencil moved rapidly across the paper. She can hear things from far away. She can smell things no one else can smell. They wanted to use her to find people. Bad people wanted to use her. Doc stood transfixed, watching his grandson draw diagrams that looked like they belonged in a neuroscience textbook, not in a child's imagination. Finally, he stepped forward, gently taking Noah by the shoulders. "Noah," he said softly, "wake up, son." Noah's eyes fluttered open, momentarily confused. He looked down at the papers, then up at his grandfather. "Grandpa, why am I downstairs?" "You were sleepwalking," Doc explained, studying Noah's face. "Do you remember anything you were dreaming about?" Noah frowned, looking over at Luna, who was still sleeping peacefully. "I saw through Luna's eyes," he said simply. "I saw the bad men who put her in the box. They wore white coats, like doctors. But they weren't good doctors like you, Grandpa." Doc felt a chill run down his spine. "What do you mean you saw through Luna's eyes?" "When I touch her," Noah explained, as if it were the most natural thing in the world, "I can see what she sees. I can feel what she feels." He looked up at his grandfather, his eyes far too serious for a child his age. "She's scared, Grandpa. She's scared they'll come back for her and her babies." Doc Murphy had been a man of science his entire life. He didn't believe in the supernatural or psychic connections, but looking into his grandson's eyes, he couldn't deny the certainty he saw there. "How long have you been able to see through Luna's eyes?" he asked carefully. "Since I touched her in the box," Noah replied. "She was dying. She was giving up. I told her to stay with me, and she did. Now we're connected." He said it matter-of-factly, without drama or embellishment, the way children often state profound truths. Doc looked down at the diagram spread across the coffee table. "Did Luna show you how to draw these?" Noah nodded. "These are the things in her head, the metal things that hurt her. They make her special, but they also make her hurt." Doc gathered up the drawings, his mind racing. "Let's get you back to bed, Noah. We can talk more about this in the morning." As he tucked Noah back in on his pallet next to Luna, Doc noticed the dog watching him with those intelligent amber eyes. For a brief, irrational moment, he wondered if she could understand everything they were saying, if she knew they were trying to help her. "It's all right, girl," he whispered, reaching out to gently stroke her head. "You're safe now." Luna's tail thumped once against the blanket. Then she closed her eyes and drifted back to sleep, her body curled protectively around her unborn puppies. Doc Murphy didn't sleep again that night. He sat in his study, examining Noah's drawings by lamplight, trying to make sense of what was happening in his home. By morning, he had more questions than answers. But one thing was becoming increasingly clear. Luna was no ordinary dog, and whatever had been done to her was no ordinary veterinary procedure. As the sun rose, casting golden light through the windows, Doc heard a car pulling up the gravel driveway. He looked out to see Sheriff Elena Rodriguez stepping out of her patrol car. He'd called her first thing, as promised. What Doc didn't see was the black SUV parked just down the road, partially hidden by trees, its occupants watching the farmhouse through high-powered binoculars. Inside the vehicle, a man in a dark suit spoke into a secure phone. "Asset located," he said coldly. "Proceeding with retrieval protocol. The subject has formed an unexpected bond with a human child. This complicates things." The voice on the other end of the line was equally cold. "Retrieve the asset at all costs. The child is irrelevant." The man ended the call and nodded to his partner. "We move at nightfall." Inside the farmhouse, Noah was awake, sitting cross-legged beside Luna, speaking to her in soft, continuous sentences, more words than he had spoken in the past year combined. Sarah watched from the doorway, tears of joy and bewilderment streaming down her face. "Luna says her babies are coming soon," Noah announced, looking up as his grandfather entered the room with Sheriff Rodriguez. "She says we need to be ready." Doc and the sheriff exchanged glances. "Noah," Doc said gently, "this is Sheriff Rodriguez. She's here to help us figure out who put Luna in that box." Noah's face darkened. "The bad people did it. The ones who put the metal in her head. They're still looking for her." He looked directly at the sheriff with an intensity that made her step back. "And they're coming here. Luna says they're coming here." Sheriff Rodriguez knelt down to Noah's level, her dark eyes kind but serious. "Can you tell me more about these bad people, Noah? Anything you remember might help us keep Luna safe." Noah hesitated, his hand never leaving Luna's fur. "They wear white coats sometimes, and black suits other times. They have a symbol." He grabbed a crayon from the table and drew a quick sketch, a circle with what looked like a stylized eye in the center. "Luna remembers this on their coats and their cars." The sheriff studied the drawing, her expression carefully neutral. "I'll look into this," she promised, tucking the paper into her pocket. She turned to Doc. "I need to document everything properly. Do you mind if I take some photographs of Luna's injuries and where you found her?" "Of course," Doc agreed. "I can show you the spot in the woods. Sarah can stay with Noah and Luna." As Doc led Sheriff Rodriguez outside, Sarah moved to sit beside Noah. "You're being very brave," she told him, "and I'm so happy to hear your voice again." Noah smiled faintly, but his eyes remained serious. "Luna needed me to talk. She needed me to be her voice." Out in the woods, Doc showed the sheriff the disturbed earth and the broken wooden box. Rodriguez took pictures from every angle, her face growing grimmer with each shot. "This is deliberate animal abuse, possibly even related to illegal experimentation," she said, carefully bagging a splinter of wood as evidence. "But there's something else bothering me about this whole situation." "What's that?" Doc asked, watching her work. "How did Noah know exactly where to find her? These woods stretch for miles. What made him dig at that exact spot?" Doc had been wondering the same thing. "I don't have an answer for that," he admitted. "But there's more. Last night, I found Noah sleepwalking, drawing diagrams that looked like neural pathways, things a 5-year-old shouldn't know anything about." The sheriff's eyebrows shot up. "You think this is connected to whatever was done to the dog?" "I don't know what to think anymore," Doc sighed. "But Noah insists he can see through Luna's eyes, feel what she feels. He says they're connected somehow." Rodriguez was silent for a moment. "My grandmother in Mexico would call that an alma compartida, a shared soul." She shook her head. "But I'm a sheriff, not a mystic. I need evidence and facts." As they headed back to the house, Rodriguez stopped suddenly, picking something up from the ground. It was small and metallic, about the size of a grain of rice, but with tiny wire-like protrusions. "What is it?" Doc asked. "I'm not sure," she replied, placing it in an evidence bag. "But it doesn't look like anything that belongs in these woods naturally." When they returned to the farmhouse, they found Noah and Sarah in the kitchen. Noah was making a bed in a large cardboard box, lining it with soft blankets. "Luna says the puppies will come tonight," he explained matter-of-factly. "She needs a warm, safe place." Doc checked Luna's vital signs and nodded. "Her temperature has dropped slightly. Noah might be right." He turned to the sheriff. "Elena, did you find anything out there?" Before she could answer, the sound of tires on gravel made them all turn toward the window. A black SUV with government plates had pulled up to the house. 2 men in dark suits stepped out, carrying official-looking briefcases. "Stay inside," Sheriff Rodriguez ordered, her hand moving instinctively to her sidearm. "Let me handle this." She stepped onto the porch as the men approached. From the kitchen window, Doc, Sarah, and Noah watched the exchange. They couldn't hear the words, but the body language was clear. The men were insistent, showing documents, while Rodriguez stood her ground, arms crossed. After a tense few minutes, the sheriff came back inside, her expression troubled. "They claim to be from animal control, investigating reports of a dangerous animal that escaped from a research facility." She held up a business card. "But something feels off. Their IDs seem legitimate, but when I called in to verify, the department number was mysteriously busy." "Did you tell them about Luna?" Sarah asked anxiously. "No," the sheriff replied. "I said we hadn't seen any unusual animals, but that I'd call if we did. They didn't seem convinced, but they left for now. They said they'd be back tomorrow with proper documentation." Noah, who had been listening intently, suddenly shot to his feet. "They're the bad people. Luna says they're the ones who hurt her." He ran to the German Shepherd, wrapping his small arms protectively around her neck. "We can't let them take her." "And we won't," Doc assured him, though he exchanged a worried glance with Rodriguez. "Sheriff, what are our options here?" Elena ran a hand through her short dark hair. "Legally, if they come back with a proper warrant, there's not much we can do to stop them. But I'm going to make some calls, see what I can find out about this research facility they mentioned." She crouched down next to Noah. "Don't worry, mijo. I won't let anyone take Luna without making absolutely sure they have the legal right to do so. And even then, we'll fight it if we need to." As the sheriff prepared to leave, she drew Doc aside. "While I was taking photos of Luna, I noticed something strange under her skin. Too small to be a standard microchip. It looked almost like a tiny circuit board." Doc nodded grimly. "I felt it too, during my examination. I've never seen anything like it. It's not standard veterinary practice, I can tell you that much." "I've bagged a similar object I found in the woods," Rodriguez told him, showing him the tiny metallic item. "I'm taking it to a friend at the university who works in biotech. Maybe he can tell us what we're dealing with." After the sheriff left, Doc, Sarah, and Noah spent the rest of the day preparing for Luna's impending delivery. Doc gathered his old veterinary supplies, Sarah researched puppy care online, and Noah simply stayed by Luna's side, conversing with her in whispers. As night fell, Luna became restless, pacing the living room and whining softly. "It's starting," Doc observed, washing his hands thoroughly. "Sarah, get some clean towels. Noah, you can help by keeping Luna calm." The labor began slowly, with Luna panting and circling in her makeshift whelping box. Noah sat beside her, stroking her head and whispering encouragement. Doc positioned himself to assist if needed, but Luna seemed to know exactly what to do. The first puppy arrived just after midnight, a small, dark bundle that Luna immediately began to clean. 5 more followed over the next few hours, each one healthy and strong, despite their mother's ordeal. 6 puppies, Doc announced, checking each one carefully. 3 males, 3 females. All seem healthy, which is remarkable considering Luna's condition. Noah, who had stayed awake through the entire process, shook his head. "There's one more," he insisted. "Luna says there's still one inside her." Doc frowned, gently palpating Luna's abdomen. "I don't feel anything else, Noah. Sometimes mothers get confused after delivery. It's normal." But Noah was adamant. "No, there's another one, the special one. Luna's hiding it." Before Doc could question what Noah meant, Luna suddenly stiffened, a low moan escaping her throat. Her eyes rolled back and her body began to convulse. "She's seizing again!" Sarah cried, moving to protect the newborn puppies. Doc rushed to Luna's side, but Noah was faster. The boy placed his small hands on Luna's distended belly and leaned close to her ear, whispering words too quiet for the adults to hear. Luna's convulsions stopped immediately. Her eyes cleared, focusing intently on Noah's face. Then, without any apparent effort or strain, she delivered a 7th puppy. This one was different from the others. While the first 6 were dark with typical German Shepherd markings, this puppy was almost pure white, with a distinctive cross-shaped mark on its chest. Most startling of all, its eyes were already open, unusual for a newborn pup, and they seemed to glow faintly in the dim light of the room. "That's impossible," Doc whispered, staring at the puppy in disbelief. "Puppies don't open their eyes for at least a week after birth." Noah gently picked up the white puppy, cradling it in his hands. "This one's special," he said simply. "This one is Miracle." The name seemed to fit perfectly. Doc examined the puppy, finding it not only healthy, but somehow more developed than its siblings. Its muscle tone was better, its responses more alert. By all scientific understanding, it shouldn't exist, at least not in this advanced state. "Noah," Doc said carefully, "did Luna tell you about this puppy, about Miracle?" Noah nodded, watching as Luna gently nosed her special offspring. She kept Miracle hidden inside her, protected. The bad people didn't know about Miracle. That's why they threw Luna away in the box, because they thought she failed their experiments. Sarah shivered at Noah's words. "What experiments, Noah? What were these people trying to do to Luna?" "They were trying to make her see things far away," Noah replied, his young face serious. "They put metal things in her brain to make her special, to make her find people they were looking for. But then she got pregnant, and it changed how the metal things worked. They got mad because they couldn't control her anymore." Doc and Sarah exchanged troubled glances. The boy's explanation was both childlike and disturbingly specific. "Well, they can't hurt her now," Sarah said firmly, though her voice trembled slightly. "She's safe with us." As dawn broke, Luna and her 7 puppies slept peacefully in their box. Doc finally convinced Noah to get some rest, setting up a makeshift bed on the couch, where he could still see Luna if he woke. While Noah slept, Doc examined the drawings the boy had made during his sleepwalking episode. One diagram in particular caught his attention, a detailed sketch of what appeared to be a neural interface device, complete with connection points that matched the locations of Luna's surgical scars. Doc had spent decades as a veterinarian, but he'd never seen technology like this. Whatever had been done to Luna went far beyond conventional veterinary medicine or even standard research practices. The quiet morning was interrupted by the rumble of an engine outside. Doc looked out the window to see an unfamiliar van parked at the edge of their property, half hidden among the trees. A man with a telephoto lens camera was pointed directly at their house. "Sarah," Doc called quietly, "we're being watched." Sarah joined him at the window, her face paling when she spotted the van. "Should we call Sheriff Rodriguez?" "Definitely." Doc reached for his phone but stopped when he noticed another unsettling detail. "Look at the van's license plate. It's covered up. These aren't just researchers tracking down an escaped animal. Something much bigger is going on here." Before he could dial, his phone rang. It was Sheriff Rodriguez. "Doc," she said without preamble, "that chip I found in the woods, my friend at the university says it's unlike anything he's ever seen. Some kind of advanced neural interface technology, military grade or higher. And those animal control agents, their credentials were fake. There's no record of any such operation in our county database." Doc's grip tightened on the phone. "Elena, there's a van watching our house right now, unmarked, license plate covered." "I'm on my way," she replied instantly. "Don't engage with them. Keep Noah and Luna out of sight if possible." After hanging up, Doc and Sarah quickly devised a plan. They moved Luna and her puppies to the basement, where there were no windows visible from outside. Noah, who had woken during the commotion, insisted on staying with them. "The bad people want Miracle most of all," he explained, as he carried the white puppy carefully down the stairs. "They don't know about her yet, but if they see her, they'll never stop looking for her." "How can you be so sure, Noah?" Sarah asked gently. "Because Luna knows," Noah replied simply. "And I know what Luna knows." Sheriff Rodriguez arrived 20 minutes later, approaching from the back of the property to avoid being seen by the surveillance van. She entered through the kitchen door, her expression grave. "I've got deputies running the van's description now, but without a license plate, it's going to be difficult to identify. How's Luna doing?" "She delivered 7 puppies last night," Doc told her, leading the way to the basement. "The last one is unusual." The sheriff raised an eyebrow but followed without comment. When they reached the basement, Noah was sitting beside the whelping box, the white puppy, Miracle, cradled in his lap. The other 6 puppies nursed contentedly from Luna, who watched Miracle with alert, protective eyes. Rodriguez stared at the white puppy, particularly at its open, alert eyes. "That's not normal," she stated flatly. "No, it's not," Doc agreed. "Nothing about this situation is normal. Noah says the men who experimented on Luna were trying to create some kind of enhanced sensory perception, a way to find people from a distance. But Luna's pregnancy interfered with their work, which is why they disposed of her." The sheriff nodded slowly. "That matches with what my university contact said. The chip I found contains technology that could theoretically enhance neural connections and sensory processing." She looked directly at Noah. "But what I don't understand is how you know all this, Nino." Noah looked up at her, his young face solemn. "I told you. Luna tells me things. When I touch her, I can see what she sees, feel what she feels." He held up Miracle. "And this one is even more special. This one can show people things." As if on cue, Miracle's unusual eyes seemed to glow brighter. Rodriguez gasped and took an involuntary step backward. "What the—" "She's showing you something, isn't she?" Noah asked quietly. "What do you see?" The sheriff's face had gone pale. "I see a laboratory, white walls, men in lab coats, cages with other dogs." She blinked rapidly, shaking her head as if to clear it. "That's impossible. The puppy can't be putting images in my head."
But Doc had seen it too. A brief flash of clinical white walls, surgical instruments, and men in masks. "It's not impossible," he said slowly. "It's just science we don't understand yet."
A loud knocking at the front door made them all jump. Luna growled, a low, threatening sound that made the hair on Doc's arm stand up. "Stay here," Rodriguez ordered, her hand moving to her holstered weapon. "I'll handle this." As the sheriff headed upstairs, Doc, Sarah, and Noah huddled protectively around Luna and her puppies. They could hear muffled voices from above. Rodriguez's firm tone contrasted with a man's more aggressive one. "Who is it?" Sarah whispered. Noah's face was tight with fear. "The bad people. They say they have come to take Luna back, but they're lying. They want to kill her because she knows too much about them." The voices above grew louder, more heated. Then came the sound they'd all been dreading. Heavy footsteps entering the house, moving from room to room. "They're searching for her," Noah whispered. "Luna says we need to run." Doc made a quick decision. "There's a root cellar behind the shelves," he said, pointing to the far wall of the basement. "It leads to a tunnel that comes out near the old ranger cabin in the woods. It was part of the Underground Railroad a century ago." Sarah looked at him in surprise. "You never told me about that." "Never had a reason to," Doc replied, already moving to shift the heavy shelving unit. "Help me with this, quickly." As they revealed the hidden door, the footsteps above grew closer to the basement stairs. Noah gathered Miracle and one other puppy in his arms, while Sarah and Doc carefully lifted Luna and the remaining 5 puppies into a large laundry basket. The door to the root cellar creaked open, revealing a narrow earthen passage lit only by the flashlight on Doc's keychain. "Go," he urged, helping Sarah with the basket. "I'll be right behind you." Noah hesitated at the entrance to the tunnel. "What about Sheriff Rodriguez?" A sudden commotion erupted upstairs. Raised voices, a thud, then silence. Doc's expression hardened. "Elena can take care of herself. Our job is to protect Luna and the puppies. Now go, quickly." As they slipped into the darkness of the tunnel, Noah whispered to Miracle, who was nestled against his chest. "Show us the way," he said softly. And somehow, in the pitch blackness, the puppy's eyes began to glow, illuminating the path ahead with an eerie, pale light. Behind them, heavy boots stomped down the basement stairs. But the old shelving unit had been pushed back into place, hiding the secret door from view. For now, at least, they had escaped. In the darkness of the tunnel, with only Miracle's strange glow to guide them, Doc wondered what they had become entangled in. Not just animal abuse or illegal experimentation, but something that defied scientific explanation. Something that connected his silent grandson with a dog and her mysterious offspring in ways he couldn't begin to comprehend. What was clear, though, was that powerful people wanted Luna and her puppies, particularly Miracle, and they wouldn't stop until they found them. The question now was, how far would these people go? And how could one retired veterinarian, a young woman, and a 5-year-old boy possibly stand against them? As they emerged from the tunnel into the dense woods beyond, Doc caught sight of something that made his blood run cold. In the distance, more black SUVs were arriving at his farmhouse, disgorging men in tactical gear. Whatever they were dealing with, it was bigger and more dangerous than he had imagined. "We need to keep moving," he whispered, guiding Sarah and Noah deeper into the forest. "The ranger cabin is about a mile from here. We can regroup there and figure out our next steps." Noah nodded solemnly, Miracle's glowing eyes casting strange shadows on his young face. "Luna says we're not alone," he whispered. "Someone else is trying to help us." What did Luna know that they didn't? And who was this mysterious ally? The answer seemed as shadowy as the forest path ahead of them. Do you think Noah and Luna's special connection is just a child's imagination, or something more? Tell us your theories in the comments below. The mile-long trek through the dense forest seemed to stretch endlessly. Doc led the way, his aging joints protesting with every step as he navigated the uneven terrain. Sarah followed closely, cradling the laundry basket with Luna's 6 puppies. Noah brought up the rear, Miracle clutched protectively against his chest, the puppy's strange luminescent eyes casting just enough light for them to avoid the worst obstacles. Luna padded silently alongside Noah, her movement stiff and labored after her recent delivery, but her amber eyes remained alert, scanning the shadows for any sign of danger. "How much further?" Sarah whispered, adjusting her grip on the heavy basket. "Not far now," Doc replied, his breath forming small clouds in the cool night air. "Another quarter mile, maybe less." Noah suddenly stopped, his head tilted as if listening to something only he could hear. "Someone's following us," he announced quietly. "Luna can smell them." Doc and Sarah froze, straining to hear any sound of pursuit. The forest was unnervingly quiet. No birds, no rustling leaves, just the heavy silence of a world holding its breath. "Are you sure?" Doc asked, keeping his voice low. Noah nodded, his face solemn in the strange glow from Miracle's eyes. "2 people, but Luna says they are not the bad ones." He frowned, concentrating. "One of them is hurt." They pressed on, moving as quickly and quietly as possible. Finally, the dark outline of the ranger cabin appeared through the trees. A simple wooden structure, abandoned years ago when the Forestry Service built a newer facility closer to the main road. Doc led them around to the back entrance, producing an old key from his pocket. "I've maintained this place over the years," he explained, working the rusty lock. "Sometimes I come here to think, or just to get away from everything for a while." The door creaked open, revealing a single room furnished with basic necessities: a wood stove, a table with chairs, a few shelves stocked with canned goods, and a narrow bed pushed against one wall. "It's not much," Doc apologized, lighting an oil lamp that cast warm, flickering shadows across the wooden walls. "But it should keep us hidden until we figure out our next move." Sarah carefully set down the basket of puppies, who had begun to whimper softly. Luna immediately went to them, lying down to allow them to nurse. Noah placed Miracle beside her siblings, but the white puppy seemed more interested in exploring its new surroundings, its unusual eyes taking in everything. Doc checked his phone. "No signal out here," he reported grimly. "We're cut off." "What about Sheriff Rodriguez?" Sarah asked, the worry evident in her voice. "Those men, what if they hurt her?" Before Doc could respond, they heard footsteps approaching outside. Everyone froze. Luna raised her head, ears perked, but she didn't growl. A good sign, considering her protective state. A soft knock came at the door. "Dr. Murphy," a female voice called. "It's Elena Rodriguez. I'm with Dr. Chen. We followed your trail from the house." Doc moved cautiously to the door. "How do I know it's really you, Elena?" "The first time we met, you were treating my father's hunting dog for a snake bite," the sheriff replied. "You didn't charge him because he couldn't afford it, and he repaid you with homemade tamales for a month." Doc nodded, satisfied, and opened the door. Sheriff Rodriguez stumbled in, supported by a tall, slender Asian woman wearing glasses and a torn lab coat. The sheriff's face was bruised, a trickle of dried blood visible at the corner of her mouth. "What happened?" Sarah gasped, rushing to help the injured sheriff to a chair. "They weren't expecting resistance," Rodriguez replied with a grimace. "When I questioned their warrant, one of them tried to subdue me. He's probably still unconscious in your hallway." Despite her injuries, there was a gleam of satisfaction in her eyes. The woman in the lab coat closed the door behind them, her gaze immediately finding Luna and the puppies. Her eyes widened when she spotted Miracle, whose white fur seemed to glow faintly, even without the luminescent eyes. "Remarkable," she breathed. "The 7th puppy, just as the reports indicated might be possible." Doc stepped forward, positioning himself protectively between the stranger and the dogs. "Who are you? And what do you know about this?" The woman pulled her gaze away from Miracle with visible effort. "I'm Dr. Eleanor Chen. I used to work as a consultant for Project Shepherd, the program responsible for what was done to your dog." Noah moved to Luna's side, his small hand resting protectively on her head. "You're one of the bad people," he accused, his young voice hard with anger. Dr. Chen shook her head, pain flashing across her features. "I was, yes, until I discovered what they were really doing." She looked directly at Noah. "How they were torturing these animals in the name of scientific advancement." She turned to Doc. "I've been trying to expose the program for months, but they have powerful protectors in Washington." Sheriff Rodriguez nodded, confirming the woman's story. "Dr. Chen contacted me 2 weeks ago with concerns about illegal experimentation. When I saw what you'd found in the woods, I called her immediately."
Doc studied the newcomer warily. "What exactly is Project Shepherd? What were they doing to Luna?"
Dr. Chen glanced at Noah, clearly uncertain about discussing such matters in front of a child, but the sheriff nodded encouragingly. "He deserves to know," Rodriguez said. "He's more involved in this than any of us." With a deep breath, Dr. Chen began to explain. Project Shepherd was developed by a black-budget military program. The goal was to create enhanced canine units with unprecedented sensory capabilities. Dogs that could detect explosives from a mile away, track targets across any terrain, even sense bioweapons or radiation without specialized equipment. "That's why they put the metal things in Luna's head," Noah interjected softly, "to make her see and smell better." Dr. Chen looked at the boy in surprise. "Yes, exactly. Neural interfaces designed to amplify the dog's natural senses and create a direct feed to monitoring equipment." She hesitated. "But Luna, they called her Subject 7, was special. She wasn't just receiving enhancements. The neural interfaces were actually modifying her brain structure, creating new neural pathways. She was developing abilities we hadn't anticipated. Like connecting with Noah? Doc asked, the pieces beginning to fall into place. Precisely, Dr. Chen confirmed. The theory was always that the enhanced dogs could eventually form partnerships with human handlers, sensory bonds that would allow the humans to receive and interpret the dog's enhanced perceptions. But we never achieved it in controlled testing. She looked at Noah with undisguised wonder. Yet somehow, this child has formed exactly that kind of bond, spontaneously and without training. What about the puppies? Sarah asked. Especially the white one, Miracle. Dr. Chen approached the whelping box cautiously, kneeling to examine Miracle from a respectful distance. This is unprecedented. Luna's pregnancy was unexpected, a failure of protocol that should have resulted in immediate termination of the experiment. Instead, someone decided to continue, to see what would happen when an enhanced subject reproduced. Is that why they buried her alive in that box? Doc demanded, anger coloring his voice. Because the experiment failed? No, Dr. Chen replied, her voice dropping. She was disposed of because she became unpredictable. The neural enhancements began to malfunction during her pregnancy, hormonal changes affecting the neural interfaces. She could no longer be controlled remotely. She was becoming autonomous. She looked up at them, her expression grave. That terrified them. An enhanced animal with its own will was never part of the plan. And Miracle, Noah prompted, stroking the white puppy's head. Why is she special? Dr. Chen shook her head in wonder. The seventh puppy shouldn't even exist. Our models predicted a maximum of 6 offspring, and certainly not one with abilities from birth. She adjusted her glasses nervously. If what I'm seeing is correct, this puppy was born with natural versions of the enhancements we artificially created in Luna. No surgery, no neural interfaces, just genetic inheritance of artificially induced traits. It's evolutionary science decades ahead of our understanding. Sheriff Rodriguez leaned forward, wincing at the movement. So, these people who came to the house, they're from this Project Shepherd? Most likely, Dr. Chen confirmed. Led by Colonel Richard Blackwood, the program director. He's brilliant, but utterly ruthless. He'll stop at nothing to recover Luna, and especially the 7th puppy. Miracle, Noah corrected firmly. Yes, Miracle, Dr. Chen acknowledged with a small smile. Blackwood will see her as the ultimate validation of his work, and the key to the next phase of the program. Which is, Doc prompted, creating born partnerships, children raised from infancy with enhanced animals, forming bonds that could create unprecedented military assets. Dr. Chen's voice was heavy with regret. I left when I discovered they were already identifying potential human subjects, orphans mainly, with no family ties that might complicate the process. A heavy silence fell over the cabin as they absorbed the implications. Sarah moved closer to Noah, placing a protective hand on his shoulder. We need to expose this, Rodriguez said finally. I have contacts in the state attorney's office, but we need evidence. Hard evidence that would stand up in court. Dr. Chen nodded, reaching into her pocket to produce a small USB drive. I've been collecting data for months. Test results, video of the procedures, financial records. But it's not enough by itself. They'll claim it's fabricated or classify it as a matter of national security. She looked pointedly at Luna. The physical evidence of what they've done to her would be compelling, if we can find a way to document it properly. The embedded device, Doc realized, if we could safely remove it, analyze it, that might work, Dr. Chen agreed, but removing it would be extremely dangerous without proper equipment. It's integrated with her neural pathways. A wrong move could cause permanent damage, even death. Noah, who had been quietly listening to the adults, suddenly gasped and clutched his head. Everyone turned to him in alarm as he squeezed his eyes shut, his small face contorted in pain. Noah? What's wrong? Sarah cried, kneeling beside him. Headache, the boy managed through gritted teeth. Bad one, like something's in my head too. Dr. Chen exchanged a meaningful look with Doc. The neural connection, she said quietly. If it works both ways... Noah's eyes flew open suddenly, but they looked different, unfocused, distant. When he spoke, his voice had changed, taking on a mechanical, adult quality that sent chills down everyone's spine. Quantum neural entanglement stabilized. Cross-species sensory transference at 87% efficiency. Subject 7 offspring exhibiting enhanced empathic projection capabilities. Recommend immediate acquisition and containment of all specimens. Then, as suddenly as it began, the episode passed. Noah blinked several times, his eyes returning to normal. "What happened?" he asked, looking confused at the shocked expressions surrounding him. Dr. Chen had gone pale. "That was Blackwood's voice," she whispered. "Those were his research notes, verbatim." She turned to Doc, visibly shaken. "The neural connection between Noah and Luna is somehow picking up signals from the monitoring equipment. He's channeling their communications." Sheriff Rodriguez leaned forward intently. "Can we use this? If Noah can access their systems, could we gather evidence that way?" "Possibly," Dr. Chen said slowly, "but it would be incredibly risky. The neural interfaces were never designed for human brains, especially not a child's." Doc shook his head firmly. "It's too dangerous. We're not using Noah as some kind of psychic spy." "There has to be another way," Sarah agreed, her arm wrapped protectively around her nephew. Before they could discuss further, Miracle began to glow more intensely, its eyes projecting what looked like faint images onto the cabin wall. Everyone turned to watch in astonishment as shadowy figures moved across the wooden planks, men in tactical gear, moving through the forest with precision, flanking the cabin from multiple directions. "They've found us," Noah whispered, interpreting what they were all seeing. "Luna says they have dogs with them, other ones like her, but not as special. They're using them to track us." Dr. Chen's expression hardened. "We have minutes at most. Is there another way out of here?" Doc nodded grimly. "There's a trapdoor under the rug, leads to a storm cellar with access to a drainage pipe. It comes out near the creek about a quarter-mile east." "We'll have to split up," Sheriff Rodriguez decided, checking her service weapon. "They'll be expecting all of us to stay together." "I'll go with Noah, Luna, and Miracle," Dr. Chen volunteered. "The rest of the puppies should go with Dr. Murphy and Sarah. If they're primarily tracking Luna's neural signature, they'll follow us, giving you a chance to reach safety." Doc began to protest, but Rodriguez cut him off. "It makes tactical sense," she said firmly. "And I'll create a third track, heading west, a diversion to split their forces further." She grimaced, touching her bruised face. "I owe them some payback anyway." They moved quickly, gathering what supplies they could. Doc provided Dr. Chen with a hand-drawn map showing where the drainage pipe emerged and how to reach the old fire road beyond. "My cabin is about 3 miles along that road," he told her. "It's well stocked, food, first aid supplies, even a satellite phone. The key is hidden under the blue rock beside the porch steps." As they prepared to separate, Noah knelt beside Luna, his forehead pressed against hers in silent communion. After a moment, he nodded and stepped back. "She understands the plan," he said. "She'll protect us." Sarah hugged Noah fiercely. "Be careful, sweetie. Do exactly what Dr. Chen tells you, okay?" "I will," he promised. "Luna says we'll see you again soon." Sheriff Rodriguez checked her watch. "It's time. Move fast. Stay low, and don't look back. Whatever you hear, keep going." One by one, they disappeared through the trapdoor, separating in the darkness beyond. Dr. Chen led Noah, Luna, and Miracle through the narrow drainage pipe, the white puppy's glow providing just enough light to see by. The pipe was cold and damp, barely large enough for an adult to crawl through, but they moved steadily forward, trying to ignore the sounds of pursuit that echoed faintly behind them. After what felt like hours, but was probably only 20 minutes, they emerged near the creek as Doc had promised. The night air felt fresh and clean after the confines of the pipe. Luna shook herself, scattering droplets of water from her fur, while Miracle bounded ahead, surprisingly energetic for a newborn puppy. "We need to keep moving," Dr. Chen urged, consulting the map. "The fire road should be just beyond that ridge." As they started climbing the gentle slope, Noah suddenly stiffened. "Wait," he whispered. "Luna hears something." They froze, listening intently. For a moment, there was nothing but the gentle gurgle of the creek and the soft rustling of leaves. Then came the unmistakable sound of a twig snapping nearby. Luna growled softly, positioning herself between Noah and the potential threat. Miracle pressed against the boy's leg, its eyes glowing brighter as it sensed danger. A beam of light cut through the darkness, and a harsh voice called out, "Subject 7, stand down. Containment protocols are in effect." From the shadows emerged a tall man in a crisp military uniform, his silver hair gleaming in the moonlight. Behind him, 3 soldiers in tactical gear positioned themselves strategically, weapons raised. "Colonel Blackwood, I presume?" Dr. Chen said coldly, stepping forward to shield Noah. The man's eyes narrowed as he recognized her. "Dr. Chen, I should have known you were behind this theft of government property." "They're not property," Noah said suddenly, his young voice surprisingly steady. "Luna is my friend, and you hurt her." Blackwood's attention shifted to the boy, a smile spreading across his face that didn't reach his cold eyes. "Well, well, the neural bond appears to have formed spontaneously, just as our models predicted might happen under the right circumstances." He took a step closer, studying Noah with clinical interest. "How fascinating. Perhaps you'd like to come with us, young man. We have so much to learn from you and your friend." Luna's growl deepened, the fur along her spine rising as she faced the man who had caused her so much pain. Miracle, surprisingly, stepped forward, its tiny body seemingly growing more luminous by the second. "Stand back, Colonel," Dr. Chen warned. "You have no idea what that puppy is capable of." Blackwood laughed dismissively. "A newborn puppy? I think we can manage." He nodded to his men. "Tranquilize the subjects, all of them. We'll sort them out back at the facility." As one of the soldiers raised a dart gun, something extraordinary happened. Miracle's eyes began to glow with blinding intensity, projecting a beam of light that engulfed the colonel and his men. They froze in place, expressions of confusion and then shock crossing their faces. Noah, seemingly unaffected by the light, whispered to Dr. Chen, "Miracle is showing them their own dogs, the ones they had when they were little, the ones they loved." Indeed, the hardened soldiers had tears streaming down their faces, their weapons lowered as they stared at visions only they could see. Colonel Blackwood himself had fallen to his knees, reaching out to pet a dog that wasn't physically there, his face transformed by an expression of pure love and grief. "Now," Dr. Chen hissed, grabbing Noah's hand, "while they're distracted." They ran, Luna and Miracle keeping pace, racing toward the ridge and the promise of the fire road beyond. Behind them, they could hear Blackwood shouting, his momentary vulnerability replaced by rage. "What was that?" Dr. Chen gasped as they crested the hill. "Empathic projection," Noah explained between breaths. "Miracle can show people things, make them feel things. Luna says it's what she was supposed to do, but couldn't." They spotted the fire road ahead, a narrow dirt track winding through the trees. As they reached it, the sound of an engine made them duck for cover. A vehicle was approaching, an old pickup truck moving slowly down the road. "What now?" Dr. Chen whispered, looking for a place to hide. Noah placed his hand on Luna's head, closing his eyes briefly. "It's okay," he said after a moment. "Luna says it's a friend." The truck came to a stop nearby and a familiar figure emerged, Sheriff Rodriguez, looking battered but triumphant. "Hurry!" she called. "Doc and Sarah are already safe. I borrowed this truck from a ranger station." They piled in, Luna and Miracle jumping into the truck bed, while Noah and Dr. Chen squeezed into the cab with the sheriff. "How did you find us?" Dr. Chen asked as they sped away. Rodriguez grinned despite her injuries. "I didn't. Your friend has been calling to Luna." She nodded toward the truck bed where Luna sat alert, her ears pricked forward. "Blackwood and his men are right behind us," Noah warned, "and they're really mad now." "Let them come," the sheriff replied grimly. "I've made some calls on the ranger station radio. There's a welcoming committee waiting for them up ahead." Sure enough, as they rounded a bend in the road, they saw flashing lights. Not just local police cruisers, but state troopers and what looked like federal agents as well. "Who are they?" Dr. Chen asked, leaning forward in surprise. "It turns out I'm not the only one who's been investigating Project Shepherd," Rodriguez explained. "Senator Diane Williams has been running her own inquiry for months. When I explained what we'd found, she mobilized every agency she could reach." As they pulled up to the roadblock, Noah looked back to see headlights approaching rapidly from behind, Blackwood and his men walking right into the trap. What happened next would play out in courtrooms and congressional hearings for months to come. The evidence Dr. Chen had collected, combined with Luna's physical condition and the testimony of multiple witnesses, was enough to shut down Project Shepherd permanently. Colonel Blackwood was taken into custody, though his connections would later allow him to disappear before facing trial. The night changed everything, not just for Luna and her puppies, but for Noah, whose connection with the extraordinary German Shepherd had broken through the walls of his trauma, returning his voice and opening his heart once more. As they sat safely in Senator Williams's office the next morning, Noah curled up with Luna and Miracle while the adults discussed the legal ramifications. Dr. Chen approached the boy quietly. "Noah," she said gently, "may I ask you something? When did you decide to name the puppy Miracle?" Noah looked up, his eyes bright and clear. "I didn't decide," he said simply. "That's just her name. Luna told me." "And Luna," Dr. Chen continued carefully. "How did you know her name? In the lab, she was only called Subject 7. Noah smiled, stroking the German Shepherd's head. "She told me that too. She said she was waiting a long time to tell someone her real name. She was just waiting for the right person to hear it." "What do you think Luna saw in Noah that made her choose him? And how would you react if your child suddenly started communicating with animals? Share your thoughts below." 6 months passed, transforming the world around them in ways none could have predicted that fateful night in the woods. Spring had given way to summer, and now autumn painted the landscape in brilliant hues of amber and gold once more, a full circle of seasons since Noah had first discovered Luna buried alive. The old farmhouse looked much the same from the outside, though new security cameras discreetly monitored the perimeter. Inside, the changes were more apparent. The living room had been converted into a specialized research space, with medical equipment, computers, and monitoring devices arranged alongside comfortable furniture, a blend of laboratory and home. Noah sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by Luna's puppies, now half-grown and full of energy. 5 of them had been carefully placed with specially screened families: veterans with PTSD, children with communication disorders, elderly people living alone, where their unusual empathic sensitivity, though milder than Miracle's, could do the most good. Only Miracle remained with them permanently, her white coat now accented with faint golden markings that had developed as she grew. She sat attentively beside Noah as he read aloud from a book about space exploration, her unusual eyes fixed on the colorful pictures. "The astronauts trained for years before they finally went to the moon," Noah explained, his formerly silent voice now clear and confident. "They had to learn how to live in zero gravity and use all their special equipment." Luna lounged nearby, watching her special offspring with evident pride. The surgical scars on her head had healed, though the strange markings in her fur remained, permanent reminders of what she had endured. Doc Murphy entered the room, accompanied by Dr. Chen, both carrying tablets filled with data. Over the months, they had formed an unlikely research partnership, combining Doc's veterinary expertise with Dr. Chen's advanced neurological knowledge. "How are our favorite test subjects today?" Doc asked cheerfully, though he was careful never to use that term where Luna could hear. She still flinched at certain scientific terminology that triggered memories of the laboratory. "We're reading about space," Noah replied, closing his book. "Miracle wants to know if dogs will ever go to the moon." Dr. Chen smiled as she knelt to check the small monitoring device now comfortably fitted to Luna's collar, a vastly improved version of the painful implants that had once been embedded in her skull. "Well, there have been dogs in space before, though not on the moon specifically, maybe someday." The front door opened and Sarah came in, followed by Sheriff Rodriguez. Now promoted to Chief Rodriguez after her role in exposing Project Shepherd had made her something of a local hero. "Mail's here," Sarah announced, holding up a stack of envelopes, including another letter for Noah from that girl in California, the one whose cancer went into remission after meeting Miracle. Noah smiled shyly. He'd become something of a celebrity in certain circles, though they'd worked hard to protect him from excessive attention. The story that had reached the public was carefully controlled: a boy and his extraordinary therapy dog, helping others with special needs. The full truth about Luna's origins and Miracle's abilities remained known only to a select few. "And how is our legal case progressing?" Doc asked Chief Rodriguez as she accepted a cup of coffee from Sarah. Rodriguez's expression tightened slightly. "The good news is that Project Shepherd has been permanently disbanded. Senator Williams's committee made sure of that. The public hearings revealed enough to ensure no similar program will be funded anytime soon." "And the bad news?" Dr. Chen asked, though her tone suggested she already knew. "Colonel Blackwood is still in the wind," Rodriguez confirmed. "His connections in military intelligence helped him disappear before he could be properly questioned. We have alerts in place, but honestly, I doubt we'll find him unless he wants to be found." An uncomfortable silence fell over the room. Though they rarely discussed it openly in front of Noah, the threat of Blackwood's return hung over them like a shadow. The man had invested years of his career in Project Shepherd. It seemed unlikely he would simply walk away from what he considered his greatest achievement. "Any news from the other test subjects?" Sarah asked, changing the subject to something less troubling. Dr. Chen nodded, pulling up data on her tablet. "We've located 3 more dogs from the program, all in various states of health. The neural interfaces had been removed, quite crudely, I'm afraid, but they're responding well to treatment. None of them show the same level of enhanced abilities as Luna, though." "And no other children have formed bonds with them?" Doc asked. "No," Dr. Chen confirmed. "Whatever happened between Noah and Luna remains unique. We still don't fully understand why their neural patterns synchronize so perfectly." She glanced at Noah, who was listening with surprising composure for a child his age. "My current theory is that Noah's traumatic mutism created neural pathways that were unusually receptive to Luna's enhanced patterns, a 1 in a billion synchronicity." Noah looked up from where he sat petting Miracle. "It's because we both needed someone to talk to," he said simply. "We were both locked up inside ourselves." The adults exchanged glances, struck once again by the wisdom that sometimes emerged from the boy. Since forming his bond with Luna, Noah had displayed knowledge and insights far beyond his years, though these moments came unpredictably, interspersed with perfectly normal childish behavior. "Well, whatever the scientific explanation," Sarah said, ruffling her nephew's hair affectionately, "we're just grateful to have you talking again." Their conversation was interrupted by a high-pitched alert from one of the security monitors. Everyone tensed immediately, conditioned by months of vigilance. Doc moved quickly to the computer station, set up in the corner of the room. "It's just Dr. Patel," he announced after checking the camera feed, the tension in his shoulders easing. "Right on time for Luna's weekly checkup." Dr. Meera Patel was a neurologist from the university hospital who had been brought into their small circle of trust. Her expertise in human-animal neurological interactions had proven invaluable as they worked to understand and document the extraordinary connection between Noah and Luna. As Doc went to let her in, Noah turned to Miracle, whispering something in the puppy's ear. Miracle's eyes glowed briefly, a phenomenon they had all grown accustomed to, and then she trotted over to a cabinet in the corner, nudging it with her nose. "What is it, Noah?" Sarah asked, noticing the exchange. "Miracle says there's something wrong with Dr. Patel," Noah replied, his expression troubled. "Something different. Luna feels it too." Chief Rodriguez immediately went on alert, her hand moving instinctively toward the weapon she still carried. "Different how?" Noah frowned, concentrating as he often did when interpreting the sensory information he received through his connection with Luna. "She smells afraid, and there's another smell, like metal and something sharp." Dr. Chen paled slightly. "Like a gun?" Before Noah could answer, they heard Doc greeting Dr. Patel at the front door, their voices carrying down the hallway as they approached the living room. "Remarkable progress in the latest brain scans," Dr. Patel was saying as they entered. "The neural plasticity we're observing in both Noah and Luna continues to—" She broke off as she registered the tense atmosphere in the room. Dr. Patel was a small woman, with warm brown eyes and a normally cheerful demeanor, but today she looked strained, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "Is everything all right?" she asked, clutching her medical bag a bit too tightly. Chief Rodriguez stepped forward, her posture casual, but her eyes sharp and assessing. "Dr. Patel, would you mind showing me your medical license again? There seems to be some confusion in our paperwork." It was a code phrase they had established, a way to verify identity if they ever suspected coercion or impersonation. The real Dr. Patel would know to respond with a specific counterphrase about certification requirements. Instead, the woman's expression flickered, a momentary calculation visible in her eyes. "Of course, just let me—" Luna growled suddenly, the sound low and threatening, as she positioned herself between Noah and the doctor. Miracle's eyes began to glow more intensely, projecting faint images onto the wall, shadowy figures surrounding the farmhouse, moving into position. "They're here," Noah whispered, his face pale. "The bad people came back." Dr. Patel's facade crumbled. Her hand dove into her medical bag, but Chief Rodriguez was faster, drawing her weapon and aiming it steadily. "Don't," the chief warned. "Whatever they're paying you, or whatever they're threatening you with, it's not worth it." The woman's shoulders slumped in defeat. "You don't understand," she whispered. "He has my daughter. Said he'd return her when I brought the boy and the dogs to him." "Blackwood," Dr. Chen spat the name like a curse. "This is his style. using innocent people as pawns. Outside, they heard the crunch of multiple vehicles approaching on the gravel driveway. The backup Dr. Patel had been meant to let in, once she'd secured Noah and the dogs. "Panic room now," Doc ordered, moving swiftly to a bookshelf on the far wall. He pulled a hidden lever, and the shelf swung outward, revealing a reinforced steel door. "We installed it after the first incident. It's stocked with supplies and has a secure satellite connection." Sarah quickly gathered Noah, Luna, and Miracle, ushering them toward the hidden room. Chief Rodriguez kept her weapon trained on Dr. Patel, who had sunk into a chair, her face in her hands. "What about her?" Dr. Chen asked, nodding toward the distraught woman. "She comes with us," Rodriguez decided. "If Blackwood really has her daughter, we'll need her cooperation to find the girl." As they moved toward the panic room, the sound of breaking glass came from somewhere in the house. The intruders were already inside. Doc urged everyone through the steel door, but Noah suddenly stopped, turning back. "My backpack," he said urgently. "I need my backpack." "Noah, there's no time," Sarah pleaded, trying to pull him along. "The evidence is in it," Noah insisted. "All the pictures and videos Dr. Chen gave me to keep safe." Understanding dawned on their faces. Weeks earlier, concerned about the security of digital storage that could be hacked, Dr. Chen had transferred critical evidence about Project Shepherd onto physical media, memory cards, and small hard drives disguised as toys, and given them to Noah for safekeeping. It had seemed the last place anyone would look. "I'll get it," Rodriguez volunteered, already moving toward the stairs where Noah's backpack hung on a hook. "They're in the kitchen now," Noah warned, his eyes unfocused as he accessed Luna's enhanced hearing. "Two men, coming this way." Rodriguez nodded grimly and disappeared into the hallway. 10 seconds passed as the others huddled in the doorway of the panic room, unwilling to close the door without her. A sudden burst of shouting and a crash came from the direction of the kitchen, followed by the sound of Rodriguez's voice raised in warning, then 2 sharp gunshots. "Elena!" Doc called out, his face ashen. To everyone's relief, Rodriguez reappeared moments later, Noah's backpack in one hand, her weapon in the other. Blood stained her sleeve, but she was moving steadily. "Just a graze," she assured them, seeing their concerned faces. "But we've got at least 6 hostiles in the house. Military trained by the look of them." They quickly filed into the panic room. Doc, Sarah, Noah, Luna, Miracle, Dr. Chen, Dr. Patel, and finally Chief Rodriguez. The heavy steel door sealed behind them with a reassuring thunk, multiple locks engaging automatically. Inside, the room was surprisingly spacious, about the size of a large bedroom, equipped with bunks, a small bathroom, communication equipment, medical supplies, and enough food and water for at least a week. A bank of monitors showed feeds from security cameras throughout the property, allowing them to watch as armed men in tactical gear moved methodically through the house. "Your daughter," Chief Rodriguez addressed Dr. Patel as Doc tended to her injured arm. "What's her name? How old is she?" "Priya," the woman replied, her voice hollow with fear. "She's 7. He took her from her school yesterday, showed the administrator's papers claiming to be her uncle. By the time I realized she was missing," she trailed off, her hands trembling. "Did Blackwood tell you where he's keeping her?" Dr. Chen pressed gently. Dr. Patel shook her head. "Only that she would be returned once I delivered the boy and the dogs. He gave me a phone to call when it was done." She reached into her pocket, producing a cheap burner phone. Rodriguez took the phone carefully, making sure not to power it on. "This could help us locate her, but we need to be careful. Turning it on might alert them to our position." On the security monitors, they watched as the intruders discovered the hidden entrance to the panic room. One man, clearly in charge, stepped forward to examine the steel door, Colonel Richard Blackwood, looking thinner and harder than when they'd last seen him, but unmistakable with his silver hair and cold eyes. He spoke directly to the camera they were watching through, his voice coming through the monitor's speakers. "I know you can hear me. This doesn't have to become unpleasant. All I want is the boy and the dogs, particularly the white one. Give them to me, and everyone else walks away unharmed, including Dr. Patel's daughter." Noah, watching the man who had caused so much suffering, showed no fear. Instead, he placed one hand on Luna's head and the other on Miracle's, closing his eyes in concentration. "What are you doing, Noah?" Sarah asked quietly. "Looking for Priya," the boy replied without opening his eyes. "Miracle can see through Blackwood's memories. He knows where she is." Dr. Patel gasped, hope and disbelief warring on her face. Is that possible? With these two, I've learned not to underestimate what's possible, Doc answered, watching his grandson with a mixture of pride and concern. After several tense minutes, Noah opened his eyes. She's in a motel about 20 miles from here. The Blue Pine Motel, room 12. There's a man guarding her, but he's asleep right now. Dr. Patel stared at the boy in wonder. How can you possibly know that? Because Blackwood checked on her this morning before coming here, Noah explained. Miracle saw it in his mind. Chief Rodriguez was already moving to the communications console. I have deputies I trust implicitly who can check this out. If she's there, they'll get her out safely. She began typing rapidly, sending an encoded message through the secure satellite connection. Outside the panic room, Blackwood continued his attempts at persuasion, his tone shifting between reasonable negotiation and veiled threats. When those proved ineffective, he ordered his men to set up drilling equipment, attempting to breach the reinforced door. That door will hold for at least 12 hours against anything short of military-grade explosives, Doc assured everyone. By then, help will have arrived. He didn't mention that using explosives in the confined space of the farmhouse would be suicidal. Blackwood was clearly desperate enough that such logic might not deter him. Time passed with excruciating slowness. Dr. Patel paced anxiously, checking the silent phone every few minutes as if willing it to provide news of her daughter. Dr. Chen and Doc monitored the security feeds, watching as Blackwood's men attempted various methods to breach the door. Sarah prepared food that no one felt like eating. Chief Rodriguez maintained contact with her deputies, providing updates as they moved into position at the Blue Pine Motel. Noah sat quietly with Luna and Miracle, seemingly engaged in silent communication with them. Occasionally, Miracle's eyes would glow, projecting faint images onto the wall, glimpses of the motel room where Priya was being held, seen through the memories Miracle had extracted from Blackwood's mind. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the secure communication console chimed with an incoming message. Rodriguez rushed to read it, a smile breaking across her face. They found her, she announced. Priya is safe. The deputy in charge confirms she's unharmed, just frightened. They've taken the guard into custody. Dr. Patel collapsed into a chair, sobbing with relief. Thank God. Thank God. Rodriguez wasn't finished. And there's more. The guard had documents on him, detailed plans for a new facility, financial records, communication logs. It's everything we need to completely dismantle whatever remains of Blackwood's operation and prove his criminal intent. Dr. Chen's eyes widened. That's extraordinarily lucky. Not luck, Noah said quietly. Miracle told me where to look. She saw it all in Blackwood's mind, where he's been hiding, who's been helping him, where he keeps his secrets. Everyone looked at the white puppy, who sat calmly beside Noah, her unusual eyes reflecting intelligence far beyond that of a normal dog. For months, they had been documenting Miracle's abilities, the empathic projections, the enhanced senses inherited from her mother, but this level of mind reading was something new, something they hadn't known she was capable of. Should we tell Blackwood we have his leverage now? Sarah asked, glancing at the monitor where the colonel could be seen directing his men's efforts to breach the door. Chief Rodriguez considered this, then shook her head. Not yet. My team is coordinating with the FBI and state police. They'll be here within the hour. Better to let him keep thinking he has the upper hand until we have overwhelming force in place. As they waited for rescue, Noah suddenly tensed, his hand tightening on Luna's fur. Something's happening, he warned. Blackwood just got a call. He knows Priya's been rescued. On the monitor, they could see the colonel's face contorting with rage as he shouted into a phone. He threw the device against the wall, then turned to his men with new orders. The drilling stopped. Instead, they began unloading different equipment, containers of liquid, electrical components. What are they doing? Sarah asked nervously. Dr. Chen peered at the monitor, her expression growing alarmed. Those look like chemical accelerants. I think they're planning to burn the house down. With us inside, Dr. Patel gasped. But that's murder. Blackwood has nothing left to lose, Rodriguez said grimly. His leverage is gone, his secret operation exposed. All he has left is revenge. Doc checked the panic room specifications on a laminated sheet attached to the wall. This room is fireproof to a point, but the ventilation system could be compromised by enough smoke, and the heat could eventually become unbearable. They watched in horror as Blackwood's men began splashing liquid around the house, positioning what appeared to be remote ignition devices. The colonel himself stood in the living room, staring directly into the camera again. "You've taken everything from me," he said, his voice cold and precise. "Now I'll take everything from you. If I can't have the subjects, no one will." The situation had deteriorated beyond their worst fears. Help was coming, but perhaps not soon enough. As they huddled together in the panic room, watching Blackwood prepare to turn the farmhouse into an inferno, they faced the grim reality that their sanctuary might become their tomb. But Noah, surprisingly, remained calm. "We need to let Luna and Miracle out," he said suddenly, turning to Doc. "They can stop this." "Out? Into the house with those men?" Sarah protested. "Noah, they'll be captured or killed." Noah shook his head, his young face set with determination. "No, they won't. Luna knows what to do, and Miracle has been practicing." "Practicing what?" Dr. Chen asked, intrigued despite the dire circumstances. Instead of answering, Noah turned to the heavy steel door. "Is there a way to open this just long enough for them to slip out, without letting the bad people in?" Doc hesitated, then nodded slowly. "There's an emergency pet door built into the bottom section, designed for exactly this scenario, in case we needed to send Luna for help." He moved to a panel beside the main door, entering a complex code. A small section at the bottom of the door slid open, just large enough for a dog to pass through. "Noah, are you sure about this?" Sarah asked, kneeling beside her nephew. "They're safer in here with us." "No one is safe if the house burns down," Noah replied with simple logic. "Luna and Miracle can help. We have to trust them." After a moment of heavy silence, they all nodded their agreement. Noah knelt between Luna and Miracle, whispering to them, his forehead pressed against Luna's, then Miracle's. Something unspoken passed between them. Instructions, reassurance, a plan only they understood. "Be careful," Noah told them finally, his voice thick with emotion. "Come back to me." With that, Luna nudged Miracle toward the small opening. The white puppy slipped through first, followed by her mother. The panels slid closed behind them, sealing the panic room once more. On the monitors they watched as Luna and Miracle crept silently through the house, staying low and out of sight as Blackwood's men finished their preparations. The colonel himself stood in the center of the living room, a remote detonator in his hand, apparently delivering some final monologue about his justifications and grievances. What would the dogs do? And would their plan be enough to save everyone in time? Do you think Luna and Miracle's special abilities will be enough to stop Blackwood? What power do you think Miracle has been practicing that Noah mentioned? Share your predictions below. On the security monitors, the group watched with bated breath as Luna and Miracle moved silently through the house. The German Shepherd led the way, her movements fluid and purposeful, while Miracle followed close behind, her white coat almost glowing in the dim light. "What exactly is their plan?" Dr. Patel whispered, her eyes fixed on the screens. "There are armed men everywhere." Noah, who hadn't taken his eyes off the monitors since the dogs left, replied with quiet confidence. "Luna is going to distract them. Miracle is going to show them things they need to see." On the screen they watched as Luna deliberately stepped into view in the hallway. One of Blackwood's men spotted her immediately, shouting to alert the others. Just as they had anticipated, the men focused their attention on the adult dog, the known experimental subject they had come to recapture. What they didn't notice was Miracle, who used the distraction to position herself in a central location, hidden behind a piece of furniture but with clear sightlines to most of the room where Blackwood stood with the detonator. "There she is," Blackwood barked, his composure cracking at the sight of Luna. "Secure Subject 7 immediately. Remember, no fatal shots. We need her neural interface intact." The men moved to surround Luna, who growled defiantly but didn't retreat. She seemed to be deliberately drawing them away from where Miracle had positioned herself. "What now?" Sarah asked anxiously. "They're going to capture her." But before any of the men could lay hands on Luna, something extraordinary happened. Miracle's eyes began to glow with an intensity they had never witnessed before, the light so bright it illuminated the entire room, even from her hiding place. Suddenly, every one of Blackwood's men froze in place, their weapons dropping from nerveless fingers, expressions of shock and disorientation on their faces. "What is this?" Dr. Chen breathed, leaning closer to the monitor. "What are we seeing?" "Miracle is showing them the truth," Noah explained, his young voice filled with wonder. She's showing them all the bad things Blackwood did. To Luna, to the other dogs, to the people who tried to stop him. She's showing them what will happen if they help him now. Indeed, on the monitors, they could see Blackwood's men staggering backward, some covering their eyes as if trying to block out unbearable visions. Several dropped to their knees, overwhelmed by whatever miracle was projecting into their minds. Blackwood himself seemed affected differently. He remained standing, but his face contorted with rage and fear. "Stop this!" he shouted, though it wasn't clear if he was addressing his men or the puppy causing the phenomenon. "Contain the white one! That's the priority target!" But his men were in no condition to follow orders. Some were now actively backing away, heading for the exits, while others remained frozen in place, clearly battling internal horrors. Luna, seeing her opportunity, bounded across the room toward Blackwood with startling speed. Before he could react, she leaped, knocking the detonator from his hand. It skittered across the floor, coming to rest near where Miracle was hidden. "No!" Blackwood screamed, diving for the device. But Luna blocked his path, her teeth bared in a snarl that would have given pause to even the bravest soul. What happened next moved almost too quickly for the observers in the panic room to follow. Miracle emerged from her hiding place, her entire body now seeming to pulse with light. She approached Blackwood directly, fearless despite her small size, and locked eyes with the man who had ordered her mother's torture and disposal. The colonel went rigid, his eyes widening in what looked like absolute terror. Unlike his men, who had received a generalized projection of his crimes, Blackwood appeared to be experiencing something far more personal and intense. He began to speak, his words clearly audible through the monitoring system. "No, stop," he pleaded, addressing Miracle as if she were a person. "You don't understand. It was necessary. For security. For progress." His voice rose in pitch, becoming desperate. "You can't judge me. You're just an animal, a test subject." But whatever Miracle was showing him continued relentlessly. Blackwood fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. "I'm sorry," he whispered, shocking everyone watching. "I'm sorry for what we did to you. To all of you." In the panic room, Dr. Chen gasped. She's not just showing him his crimes. She's making him feel what his victims felt. The pain, the fear, the helplessness. "Empathic projection," Doc confirmed quietly. "Far beyond anything we've documented before. She's not just sending images, she's transferring emotional experiences." Outside the panic room, the situation had transformed completely. Most of Blackwood's men had fled, apparently driven away by what Miracle had shown them. Those few who remained seemed dazed, uncertain, no longer a threat. And Blackwood himself remained on his knees before Miracle, broken by the weight of his own actions experienced through his victims' perspectives. Luna had retrieved the detonator, carrying it carefully in her mouth. She brought it to a far corner of the room, well away from the accelerants, and buried it under a pile of blankets as if instinctively understanding its dangerous nature. Then, with the immediate threat neutralized, both dogs turned back toward the panic room, clearly intending to return to Noah and the others. But Blackwood wasn't entirely defeated. As Luna and Miracle passed by him, he suddenly lunged with the desperate speed of a man with nothing left to lose. His hand closed around Miracle's small body, lifting her as he simultaneously drew a concealed pistol from his ankle holster. "If I can't have her," he snarled, pressing the gun against Miracle's head, "no one will. She's too dangerous to exist." Luna reacted instantly, leaping at Blackwood, but hesitated when he used Miracle as a shield. The white puppy struggled in his grip, but couldn't break free. In the panic room, everyone watched in horror. "We have to help them," Sarah cried, moving toward the door. "Wait," Noah said suddenly, his voice eerily calm. "Watch." On the screen, Miracle had stopped struggling. Instead, she turned her glowing eyes directly on Blackwood, staring into his face from inches away. The colonel's expression changed, the rage gradually replaced by something else. Confusion, then understanding, and finally, a strange sort of peace. "What is she doing to him?" Dr. Patel asked, mesmerized by the scene. "She's showing him something different now," Noah explained softly. "She's showing him forgiveness." Blackwood slowly lowered the gun, then released Miracle gently onto the floor. He looked around as if seeing the world for the first time, then placed his weapon on the ground and pushed it away. "I'm ready," he said to no one in particular, his voice hollow but resolved. "I'll face what I've done." Just then, the sound of sirens filled the air. The promised reinforcements had finally arrived. Through the external security cameras, they could see police vehicles, FBI agents, and even military personnel surrounding the farmhouse. "It's over," Chief Rodriguez said with evident relief. "We can open the door now." Doc quickly deactivated the panic room locks, and the heavy steel door swung open. Luna and Miracle immediately bounded in, racing to Noah, who knelt to embrace them, tears of joy and relief streaming down his face. "You did it," he whispered to them. "You stopped him. You saved everyone." Outside, they could hear the authorities entering the house, securing the scene. Blackwood made no attempt to flee or resist. When officers reached him, he surrendered quietly, confessing his actions unprompted and even directing them to additional evidence of his crimes. In the days that followed, the full story emerged piece by piece. Blackwood's remaining network was dismantled. The documents found with Priya's guard provided enough evidence to prosecute several high-ranking officials who had protected Project Shepherd despite its illegal activities. Dr. Patel was reunited with her daughter, and both were placed in protective custody until all the conspirators could be apprehended. For Noah, Luna, and Miracle, life gradually returned to a new kind of normal. Their home was repaired, security was enhanced, and a rotating detail of trusted officers maintained a protective watch, just in case. 1 month after the incident, on a crisp autumn day much like the one when Noah had first discovered Luna, the family gathered in the backyard of the farmhouse. Doc had set up a table under the old oak tree, covered with a checkered cloth and laden with a celebratory lunch. Chief Rodriguez was there, along with Dr. Chen, and even Senator Williams had made the journey to mark the occasion. "I still can't believe the changes we've seen," Dr. Chen remarked, watching as Noah played fetch with Luna and Miracle nearby, "not just in their abilities, but in how those abilities have evolved." "Evolved is exactly the right word," Doc agreed, pouring lemonade for everyone. What Miracle did to Blackwood, not just showing him his crimes, but ultimately offering him a path to redemption, that goes beyond any enhancement program I can imagine. Senator Williams nodded thoughtfully. The military wanted weapons, tools for warfare. Instead, they created beings capable of inspiring profound emotional and moral transformation. She smiled wryly, not exactly what they were hoping for in their black budget expenditures. Chief Rodriguez chuckled. No wonder they were so desperate to control Luna and Miracle. Imagine what would happen if beings who could force people to experience true empathy were allowed to roam free. "Perhaps the world would be a better place," Sarah suggested, bringing out a platter of sandwiches. They all watched as Noah threw a ball, which Miracle chased with typical puppy enthusiasm. When she returned with it, the white dog's eyes glowed briefly, and Noah laughed in response to something only he could perceive. "The bond is stronger than ever," Dr. Chen observed. "Noah can communicate with both dogs now, not just Luna, and Miracle's abilities continue to develop in ways we never anticipated." "Which raises an important question," Senator Williams said, her expression growing serious. "What happens as she matures? As her abilities strengthen? The ethical implications are staggering." Everyone fell silent, contemplating the senator's words. Luna and Miracle might have been created as military assets, but they had become something far more significant, beings who could potentially change human consciousness itself. "I've been thinking about that," Doc said finally, "and I believe the answer is simple, though not easy. We protect them, we learn from them, but most importantly, we respect their autonomy. They have earned the right to determine their own futures. Even if that future includes changing how humans perceive the world around them?" Dr. Chen asked. "Especially then," Doc replied firmly. "Look what happened with Blackwood. Miracle didn't destroy him. She offered him understanding and a chance at redemption. That's not a weapon. That's a gift." Their philosophical discussion was interrupted as Noah called out excitedly, waving them over to where he stood with the dogs. "Come quick. Miracle wants to show you something." They gathered around the white dog, who sat calmly in the center of their circle, her unusual eyes fixed on Noah's face. The boy nodded encouragingly, and Miracle's eyes began to glow, but differently than before. Softer, gentler, more like a warm light than the intense beam they had witnessed during the confrontation with Blackwood. Suddenly, each person present gasped as they experienced something extraordinary, not frightening visions or painful memories, but a profound sense of connection. It was as if, for just a moment, they could feel each other's emotions, understand each other's perspectives, experience the world through each other's senses. They saw through Luna's enhanced perception, the world in sharper detail, filled with scents and sounds humans normally couldn't detect. They felt Noah's childlike wonder combined with wisdom beyond his years. They experienced the depth of Doc's love for his grandson, Sarah's fierce protectiveness, Rodriguez's unwavering sense of justice, Dr. Chen's scientific curiosity tempered by newfound ethical clarity, and the senator's hopeful vision for a better future. For those brief moments, they were connected in a way humans rarely experience: total empathy, complete understanding, without judgment or fear. When it ended, they stood in silence, blinking in the ordinary sunlight that suddenly seemed dimmer than before. Tears streamed down several faces. "That was," Senator Williams began, then shook her head, unable to find adequate words. "That's what Miracle has been practicing," Noah explained simply. "Not just showing people bad things to make them stop, showing people good things to help them start." "Start what?" Sarah asked softly. "Understanding each other better," Noah replied with a child's straightforward wisdom. "She says people spend too much time thinking about themselves. They forget how to feel what others feel." Dr. Chen knelt beside Miracle, examining her with new appreciation. "This goes beyond anything we could have theorized. She's not just projecting emotions or memories. She's creating a shared consciousness, a temporary neural network connecting multiple minds." "Is it dangerous?" Chief Rodriguez asked, ever practical despite being visibly moved by the experience. "I don't think so," Doc answered thoughtfully. "If anything, it feels healing." Noah nodded in agreement. "Miracle says she wants to help people, like how she helped Blackwood understand what he did wrong, but also how she helped him remember being a kid with his first dog, when he was still good inside." The adults exchanged meaningful glances, grasping the profound implications of what Noah was describing. Miracle possessed the ability not just to punish wrongdoing through forced empathy, but to reconnect people with their better natures, their capacity for compassion and growth. "I think," Senator Williams said slowly, "that we need to be very careful about who knows the full extent of what Miracle can do. There are still people who would see her as a threat, or worse, as a tool to be exploited." Everyone nodded in solemn agreement. The world wasn't ready to know everything about Luna and Miracle, not yet. That knowledge would need to be protected, shared selectively with those who could be trusted to respect its significance. As the afternoon progressed into evening, they continued their celebration, sharing stories and making plans for the future. Noah would return to school, though with special accommodations that allowed Luna to accompany him. Doc and Dr. Chen would continue their research, documenting the remarkable abilities of both dogs while keeping the most sensitive findings secure. The other puppies would remain with their carefully selected families, their milder abilities monitored but allowed to develop naturally. And Miracle, she would stay with Noah and Luna, protected by those who understood her importance, allowed to grow and explore her unique gifts at her own pace. As twilight fell, Noah sat on the porch steps with Luna on one side and Miracle on the other. Doc joined him, wrapping an arm around his grandson's shoulders. "Are you happy, Noah?" he asked softly. Noah leaned against his grandfather, watching the first stars appear in the darkening sky. "Yes," he said simply. "Luna says we're exactly where we're supposed to be, all of us." Doc smiled, feeling a profound sense of peace despite all they had endured. "I think Luna is right about that." Inside the house, Sarah turned on lights against the gathering darkness, their warm glow spilling onto the porch in a welcoming rectangle. Behind them, the voices of their friends continued in comfortable conversation, planning and dreaming of a future where the extraordinary connection between a boy and his dogs might, in small but significant ways, help heal a fractured world. Noah reached out, placing one hand on Luna's head and the other on Miracle's. For a moment, the white puppy's eyes glowed softly, casting a gentle light that illuminated their faces in the dusk. "Luna says we're just beginning," Noah whispered, his eyes reflecting the mysterious light. "There's so much more to come." Doc nodded, watching as Miracle's glow created a protective shimmer around them, invisible to most, but clear evidence that their extraordinary connection continued to evolve. Though the future held uncertainties, one thing was certain. The bond between Noah, Luna, and Miracle had already changed their lives immeasurably, and perhaps, in time, it might change many more. In the distance, a car approached along the road, its headlights cutting through the evening mist. Chief Rodriguez, who had been watching from the window, tensed momentarily, then relaxed as she recognized the vehicle. "It's just a reporter," she called out. "The one from the educational magazine doing the story about therapy dogs. I'll handle it." Doc squeezed Noah's shoulder gently. "Remember, we only tell the simplified version. A boy and his extraordinary therapy dogs, helping others with special needs." Noah nodded solemnly. "I know, Grandpa. The whole truth stays between us." As the chief went to intercept the reporter, ensuring they would only see and hear what the family wanted to share, Doc gazed out at the peaceful yard where not long ago they had faced mortal danger. The world continued to turn, life moved forward, and somehow, through all the darkness they had faced, they had emerged into light. Beyond the farmhouse, in a secure facility, Colonel Blackwood sat in his cell, awaiting trial. But his eyes were different now, clearer, calmer, free of the obsessive drive that had consumed him for so long. On the wall, he had been permitted to pin a single photograph, himself as a boy with his first dog, a reminder of who he had been before ambition and power corrupted his purpose. And in laboratories across the country, other scientists who had once worked on Project Shepherd found themselves inexplicably changing course, turning their research toward healing rather than harm, connection rather than control. None could quite explain why, but each had experienced strange dreams of a white dog with glowing eyes, showing them a better path forward. The impact of Miracle's gift was rippling outward, quiet but unstoppable, like concentric circles in still water. This story touched your heart for a reason. If you loved following Noah, Luna, and Miracle's incredible journey, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Drop a comment telling us which moment moved you most. Was it when Noah first spoke to save Luna, or when Miracle showed everyone true empathy? And don't forget to share where you're watching from around the world.